Welcome to the award-winning Superhuman Academy podcast, where we interview extraordinary people to give you the skills and strategies to overcome the impossible. And now, here's your host, Jonathan Levy.
Hey, listen up and don't skip over this. Before we get started, I want to let you know that I am giving away completely free copies of my latest best-selling book, The Only Skill That Matters. This book is going to teach you how to upgrade your memory, read faster, learn more, and conquer your dreams. And it contains all new content written for 2020. Now, again, I am giving away completely free copies of this book. All you need to do is pay shipping and handling. So to pick up your free copy as a listener of this podcast, visit freelearningbook.com. That's freelearningbook.com. Greetings, super friends, and welcome to this week's episode, where this week we have a very special guest. In fact, today you are going to meet one of the members of my executive team who just so happens to be an expert and thought leader on the topic of procrastination. His name is Dimitris Gkiokas, say that 3 times fast, and he has an incredible story which he shares throughout this podcast episode. See, most people today would not believe it when they look at Dimitris. This award-winning podcaster has the most successful podcast in Greece, has his own business, and is a core member of the leadership team in my business. No one would look at someone with that much amazing stuff going on and realize that he is actually a recovering gaming addict. And I'm talking addict, as you will see. He is a recovering chronic procrastinator and is someone who has had an incredible journey just to be able to achieve a fraction of the things that he wanted to achieve in life. So in this podcast episode, we talk about the incredible journey that Dimitris has gone through to be able to achieve so much and what you can learn from it. He shares how so many of us, many more than I think we realize, are also suffering from procrastination. Maybe not as badly, but we are suffering from procrastination in our day-to-day lives. And he talks about how you can change your relationship to procrastination and how you can overcome many of the negative effects. I really enjoyed this episode. I've learned a lot from Dimitris around this topic and learned how even I, yes, even me with the podcasts and the courses and the million other things going on, even I have a procrastination problem that I would be served to change. So without any further ado, please welcome my dear friend, Dimitris Gkiokas. Mr. Dimitris Gkiokas, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good, Jonathan. How about you?
I'm doing fine, man. I'm relaxing. Got my quarantine beard on. I got my sweatpants. So I'm in kind of my happy place. But I'm really excited to talk about today's episode because I think what we're going to be talking about is really, really pertinent for a lot of people stuck at home right now, and that's why we moved heaven and earth to get this episode out this week instead of 3 months in advance. And I think we're gonna help people a lot today. So welcome, and I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you, and thank you for your very kind words. And I'm really looking forward to giving people more information on today's topic, which is
So before we go in, I'm going to keep people on the edge of their seat. I think people have probably seen you, heard of you, because you work with us and you do the blog notes and many other things behind the scenes. But for those who don't know about you or maybe don't know about your story, I didn't know about your story when we started working together. Take me through this journey of how you came to be an expert in today's topic, which I guess we could tell them is procrastination.
It all starts back in 2nd grade. Yeah, that soon. We were at school. I was in Athens in Greece, and we had an English class. And as part of our weekly English class, we had to copy an English text. And that was to learn how to spell correctly and get used to writing in English. And one fateful day, I just forgot to do the copy assignment. Remember, I was a 7-year-old. And I forgot to do the copy assignment. And the amazing thing happened. No one caught me. No one ever realized I didn't do my assignment. And as a 2nd grader, that really, really surprised me. And I went the whole year after that without ever doing my copy assignment again, and I never got caught. So at that
you basically
early,
had a license to kill at this point. It's like
exactly.
the whole world is your oyster.
Exactly. And I was still 7 years old. I mean, that's too early to make this connection. You know that there are no consequences when you procrastinate effectively. So I took that and I continued procrastinating throughout primary school, middle school, high school, college, and even in the early stages of my career, with very, very severe consequences, unlike my second grade experience. But that wasn't the only problem. A little later on in life, I got into gaming. And then I got more into gaming. And eventually, I went full-blown gaming addiction. So until the age of 20, I would just game more than 60 hours a day. Pretty much, I didn't do anything else. I would just
16 hours a day.
More than that. 20 hours some days. Yeah.
Wow, that's a proper addiction. How did you sustain yourself during that time? I mean, how did you like pay rent?
I was still, in my early college years and my high school years, so I was mostly supporting myself through my parents. There was a lot of guilt in me that I'm not doing anything and being supported by my parents, but that's how it was back then. And, I would just eat one meal a day that I would order from a restaurant or something. And that's what I did. I would eat one meal, I would game all day long, I would go to sleep, rinse and repeat.
Crazy. So, I mean, really, the only way I can even put that into context is thinking of it as an addiction, right? Is like, and maybe it's one of these addictions that doesn't stand out to people as much. Like if you were doing meth and your teeth were falling out, people would have maybe stepped in and helped you. But because I think a lot of addictions are still closeted or are still, people say, oh, that's not a real addiction, like exercise addiction or food addiction to unhealthy food. So tell me more about that. I mean, I imagine what were the repercussions like for you? Were there repercussions?
Well, yeah, everything in my life suffered. I mean, I was way overweight. My studies suffered. Actually, I didn't study anything at all for the first 2 years of college. My relationships suffered. And the problem was that everything in my life supported my gaming addiction. All of my friends were also addicted and we were all gaming together all day long. So I had a community that supported my addiction, which is like the number one factor in addictions. And there was another thing. I was telling myself that I was going to be an esports professional athlete. So in my head, I was giving myself justifications for what I was doing. I was saying that what I do makes sense because I have a goal. But at the same time, I now realize that back then I never did anything that would actually get me there. I was gaming all day long, but I wasn't doing deliberate practice or actually, deliberately trying to achieve a very high level of gaming.
How funny. So when did you know you hit rock bottom? I would love to hear, I don't know if you want to share, but I'd love to hear some instances where it's like, this relationship ended, or I got this grade, or I had this conversation. Like, what were some of the signs for you that you were way out of control, that you were hitting rock bottom?
That's a very good question. I think the very first thing happened when I first realized I hated myself. That's a big statement to make, but I clearly remember calling myself a parasite for the first time, just because I was being sustained without doing anything. And that happened after a 36-hour World of Warcraft session.
Oh my gosh. You didn't sleep for 36 hours?
No, I was gaming. I was playing World of Warcraft for 36 hours in a row and then went to sleep.
That's insane.
And at the end of that, with the terrible mood that being tired gives you, I, for the first time, felt like I hated my habit of gaming. And that was an important, not turning point necessarily, but like that was an important point because I started talking to the people around me, telling them, what am I doing with my life? And I feel, like a parasite and I want something different. It took another year to actually change my gaming habit, but that was the point where I started having second thoughts, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now I want to separate out, Dimitris, because we're talking about two things here. One of them is a very legitimate addiction, and one of them is procrastination. can you break down for me a little bit the difference? Because I think people in the audience might be listening and going, well, I'm not addicted to, and I think we're all addicted, right? And you and I have talked, like, I'm addicted to TV. My favorite thing to do is turn on the weekend. I'll watch just, 20 minutes of a Netflix explained documentary, and it becomes watching the whole season. So I have to have a lot of the controls around me. But regardless of whether or not people are cognizant of the real life addictions that they suffer from, I think a lot of people go, well, my problem isn't addiction. It's just procrastination. Where do the two fit together?
Okay, so exactly. As you said, they are different. And I think it's pretty clear in everyone's head why they're different. Let's talk about why they are the same or why they are similar. Gaming addiction, like almost every other addiction, is not the actual problem. It's a symptom, right? There's something inside, something deeper that gets you addicted or gets you not doing what you want to be doing, right? What people don't
say so.
Yeah. So what people don't really know is that procrastination is most times, or I should say all times, is a symptom. It's not the actual problem. And I should know, because when I stopped gaming, I thought I had solved all of my problems, but it took me 1 or 2 months to get addicted again. Only now I was addicted to procrastination.
Right. What was your next poison?
Pretty much everything. Like, I would do YouTube videos all day long, and then I would do TV series, and then I just party all day long. I went through that phase. I did everything other than what I wanted to be doing to achieve my goals. Everything else.
That is a powerful statement. We're now doing quote cards for these episodes. So whoever's doing quote cards on our team, that's a powerful statement. I did everything except for what I wanted to be doing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So talk to me about what the problem actually was, because you just told us your problem was never a gaming addiction. It was what caused the gaming addiction.
Yeah. So the top layer of the problem was that I had associated at a young age that being a procrastinator meant no consequences. But at the deeper layer, I started researching after many years of trying to figure out what was wrong. And the first things I discovered were a very deep fear of failure, right? And then a very severe perfectionism that got me, procrastinating very hard. But what I figured out over time is that there was a deeper layer than these two. And it will sound simple, but it wasn't really. When I was 15 years old, I met a young kid. And that kid did everything in its power to gather attention, right? And it would lie. It literally told me it saw a dragon. It was a young kid. And I can't really blame the kid, but at the time, I saw in the kid a need I had, a need for attention from others. I really, really needed to be liked. I'm an only child, didn't really have many young children in my childhood. So I had some deeper needs for attention. And an amazing thing that happened at that point was that I identified with that kid, and I didn't like that kid. So at the tender age of 15, I realized I don't like myself. I literally did not like myself at all.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can relate to that. I share that history.
So not liking myself caused a whole ton of problems later on. It was like a little voice in my head telling me that I'm not worthy, that I shouldn't achieve anything, that it's much better to find a way to escape rather than actually do the work. So that deeper negative set of feelings for myself, which took a long time to deal with, to realize first, to become aware of, and then deal with, that was actually the true cause of problems underlying my gaming addiction and then my procrastination addiction.
So could this problem have been any other problem? Because I know you said procrastination is always just a symptom. And yet lots of people procrastinate. Most people, I think, procrastinate. And not all of them hate themselves or dislike themselves. So what are some of the other causes that maybe other people are being victimized by?
So, I'll go with the most common ones. First of all, we have low self-esteem and low confidence, self-confidence, right? When you don't believe you're worthy, you don't really do the work. You don't really commit to doing the work, and thus you procrastinate. Then I'd say the fear of failure that I said before and the perfectionism are like two of the biggest triggers for procrastination. And then I think another very big is that we constantly compare ourselves to other people, right? So what I'm saying right now is like the middle layer. There's usually a deeper layer why we compare ourselves to other people, but the more we compare ourselves to others, the more we feel inadequate. And I guess it all comes down to that, feeling inadequate and feeling like we are overwhelmed by what we have to do, that we're not capable of doing it, that we're not worth of achieving our dreams. These are like the main reasons why we get to procrastinate.
Right. So it almost sounds like the solution to procrastination is just go see a therapist. But I know it's not anywhere near that simple.
Yeah.
So why is that? Why do we still procrastinate even once we've done the work? I mean, could it be that also sometimes the symptom of procrastination is a dissonance between what we say we want and what we actually want? Could it be, maybe that we don't enjoy the work that we're doing? Things like that?
Yeah, that's obviously a very important first layer. We procrastinate when we don't like what we're doing, right? I never procrastinated on gaming when I was addicted on gaming, right? But yeah. I think the most important reason why we keep procrastinating even after we do some of the work is because procrastination is a habit. Mm-hmm. Most of us think that procrastination is an innate trait, that we are born to be intense procrastinators or other people are born to be extremely productive people. But that's simply not true. As I said, I know when my procrastination started, and it was in second grade. There is something similar for everyone that procrastinates and has procrastination as a habit. So even after we do some of the work, we still have the habit of procrastinating. And unless we do the work on the habit, which I know in this podcast, there have been a lot of conversations on habits. We need to do the work to change the habit to actually change our procrastination. We need to figure out what our cues are, what our routines are, what our rewards are that make us continue doing that habit.
So it really is about learning about our habits and changing it. Can we ever completely eliminate procrastination? Is that even possible?
Now we go, that's a very, very good question. And now we go to one of the biggest beefs I have with every work there is on procrastination, practically. I think almost all things people say about procrastination are wrong, because everyone approaches procrastination as an enemy we have to win over or a disease we have to cure, right? So even saying that we want to eliminate procrastination completely is like the wrong way to see it, because procrastination, amidst other things, can also be a useful thing. It can tell you that, what you're working on is not what you want to be working on, right? I think there are two stages in overcoming procrastination, right? Eventually, we want to get to a point where we have enough control over our behavior and our procrastination that doesn't ever become a problem. We will procrastinate once in a while, but it won't ever be a problem. But to get there, we need tons of awareness, tons of trial and error, and a lot of time, years. And we can't afford to wait until we get to that point, right? So my work on procrastination is all about what we can do in that first stage.
So what can we do in that first stage? Walk me through it, because, we went on a tangent from your story in the peak of really, or I should say the trough, the valley of your dark place. And so tell me about the intermediary steps that you take to get things under control. Because I love this approach of yours. Two things I love about it. One is we're not all David Goggins and we're not all Jocko Willink, and we can't all just say, I'm not going to procrastinate. It's like that clip that you see on the internet where the guy's like, the 5-minute psychiatrist, 100% money back guarantee. I solved your problem in 5 minutes. People tell him the problem, and his answer, he goes, just stop it. Stop it. It's not, it doesn't work that way. And so I love this, like, look, this is a fact. This is just like, sexual desire. Like, you're not going to cure someone's sex addiction by telling them have no sexual desire. You need to find that right balance, because this is part of the human experience, this procrastination reality. And I also what I love about it is you saying like, look, this is not one of those things. I mean, I'm the learning guy, right? So everything to me is like, we need to find a way to get the benefits while we're learning and accelerate our progress. But I love that it's like, don't wait until you've mastered this to get the benefits, because then you're never going to go down this journey and path. The journey is too hard to wait to the end to get all those benefits, and the cost is too high. So what are those intermediate steps to start figuring out and start solving our procrastination today, right now? Because people are at home right now, and it's easier than ever to procrastinate when you're working from home, I think.
Okay, so I'll answer your question in two distinct sections, right? One is what we can do to eventually get to the second state, and the other is what we can do today to actually perform today if we need to, right? Which is more short term.
Mm-hmm.
For the long term, there is one piece of advice that has literally changed my life. And it's a quote, actually, and it goes like this: the okay thing that you do is much better than the perfect thing that you don't. And
so true.
That for me changed my life, because being a perfectionist on top of everything else, if I didn't feel something was adequate, and as I didn't feel I was worthy, I never did anything. It kind of made sense if you think about it.
Right.
But when I realized that doing something, even if it's not perfect, it's much better than not doing it at all, and I started actually applying that, it literally changed my life. For example, let's say you want to start meditating, and you want to start meditating for 10 minutes a day. And you can't, right? You procrastinate on it. Start meditating for 2 minutes a day, for 1 minute a day. First of all, it will help build the habit, and then it will get you some of the results. And as I said, the okay thing that you do is much better than the perfect thing that you don't.
Absolutely. And that's so well backed by the scientific literature. I know you, just like me, are a student of psychology and neuroscience and habit change and behavior. You and I geek out so often on all the research and books. And it's so deeply rooted that is the way to build habits. And this, it sounds like, from everything I'm learning from you, this is very much a habit that we have to learn over time to change.
Yeah.
Incredible. Okay. What's the second piece?
So still on the first piece, there's another thing. And that's the power of deadlines, right? I mean, there's nothing more powerful for a procrastinator than having deadlines. We all have a story where we procrastinated on something until the very last minute, and then we pulled the superhuman, which is a very fitting name on this podcast, and actually got everything done in like a day or an hour or whatever. So anyway, we can figure out to bring deadlines closer to us, that can help a ton with getting work done. Mm-hmm. So that's another very big strategy, using our imagination to do that.
Yeah, those are both really, really powerful. And I know there's a whole lot more. I've read your work, I've studied your work, so I know there's a whole lot more. How do people move towards option 2? And also, I want to, before we go there, I want to point out, we're not just talking about chronic procrastinators who have an addiction here. We're talking about also the everyday. I mean, at what point is this enough of a problem where people should start implementing these solutions? Because we all procrastinate. So at what point is it, in the same way that, we all notice attractive members of the opposite sex, even if we're in a committed relationship? Like, it's not a problem until it's a problem. When does this become a problem?
I think at any point where we start feeling like we are not achieving what we want, or we are not doing what we want. There are multiple levels on procrastination. There are people who just, fall a little short on what they want to achieve. And there are people who feel like they're spectators in their own lives. For me, at any point where we feel like we're not doing what we want to be doing, that's a point where procrastination starts becoming a problem. That's where it starts actually affecting our life.
That's huge. I mean, by that definition, and I think our audience knows that I am by no means superhuman, which is why we originally called the podcast Becoming Superhuman, not Became Superhuman. But by that definition, this is something I need to work on as well, because I would love to be much more talented at the piano, to have much better conversation skills in Russian, these hobbies and learning projects. And yet I too procrastinate. I'll end up playing piano 2 times a week max. And if I really wanted to get where I want to go, I would be playing every single day.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Just let me say that there is something like a balance, right? You can't realistically expect of yourself to work all morning until the afternoon and then study Russian and then learn how to play the piano and then do the other thing and never rest or relax or watch the TV that you enjoy watching, right? So you need to keep the balance. That's important in everything, especially when you try to make, changes and achieve goals in life.
Yeah.
But on the short term, and because I know you too are eager to hear about that part, the thing we can do on the short term for a procrastination, let's say you have a project at work that you need to finish by the end of the week. By the way, you should be doing that project right now and not listening to this podcast.
True.
In that case, the best strategy there is called pre-commitment. Pre-commitment is all about committing when you're sober, air quotes, to do the work because tomorrow, for example, you'll be procrastinating on it, right? So let's say right now you want to get that project done. You find ways to commit right now. So tomorrow you don't really have to worry about your procrastination. And there are many, many interesting ways to do that, right? And here I love Benjamin Hardy's work from his book Willpower Doesn't Work, where he talks about forcing functions. And for example, in my daily life, I use a lot of them. First of all, we need to limit distractions. We need to turn off notifications on our phone, turn off the TV, maybe throw the remote out of the window for a while, or lock ourselves in a room. These are things we can do to actually limit the cues that will get us into procrastination mode, right? Then there are things like the case safe, which is a physical box with you can lock for a specific amount of time, and you can't really override it unless you break it. And that can be used in all sorts of creative ways. You can lock in your smartphone, your remote control, your PlayStation controllers, food, if that's your problem. It has really saved my life with gaming, actually. Even today, I still use it on a consistent basis.
That's awesome. Am I the one who told you about the case safe?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I actually found about it from a hardcore pothead, believe it or not, that I invited to dinner. She came with a friend. And she was like, I discovered this new thing so I don't smoke all my weed before the weekend. And I was like, oh, here we go. And she told me about it. And I've sent them to, Joe Polish uses it now, Nir Eyal, Ben Hardy. Yeah. I've sent it to I've literally sent hundreds of them all over the world since discovering it. So thank you, anonymous pothead, for revealing this thing to me.
Yeah. And thank you, Jonathan, for revealing it to me because it really, really helped. Because when you want to lock physical things, it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it sounds like a lot of this journey really comes down, and a lot of this podcast in general, this whole podcast in the broader sense, comes down to knowledge of self and learning to work with yourself, learning to understand your triggers. It sounds like there's a very clear process that we need to go through to really understand how we tick, and then what makes us tick and what makes us not tick in this case.
Exactly.
And solving that piece by piece, again, so that willpower is no longer an issue.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I thought there was a question at the end of this. 100%. You're absolutely right. My biggest thing is awareness. In fact, the biggest thing I teach on procrastination is that more than half of the work is building awareness. You need to be aware of the problem to understand procrastination and what really triggers it. Then you need to apply that awareness to yourself. Why do you procrastinate? What are your underlying triggers that get you there? Is it fear of failure? Is it perfectionism? Is it something else? And then, since procrastination is a habit, we really need to work on building awareness on the parts that build a habit. What are the cues that get us into procrastination? That could be a notification on our phone. That could be the smell of food in the kitchen. What are our routines?
Could be something negative, a mail from someone we don't really like to interact with.
Exactly. It could even be a thought. which you can't really control that easily. That's why the next step. Yeah, true. That's why you need to also be aware of the next step, which are like the routines. What do you do once you procrastinate? And I will share one of my favorite things right after this when it comes to the routines. For example, my biggest routine on procrastination is gaming. If I go into gaming, even today, I've lost the day. It's really, really scary sometimes. So all of my forcing functions, or almost all of my forcing functions, are in place. So I limit myself from games. And that works wonders. Because that's my big procrastination routine. And almost everyone has their own big procrastination routine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know mine already.
I would assume it's Netflix.
Netflix is one of them. I've got a few other ones I'm even less proud of. They're not bad. They're not, internet porn or anything like that. But I like some funny video websites and some, just junk, garbage, complete garbage. So, Dimitris, give us the after picture, because I meant to go into it a little bit before, but you are a self-proclaimed, chronic procrastinator and recovering video game addict, and yet you've achieved quite a bit. What did it look like turning your life around, and what have you done since then and been able to do that you're most proud of?
Yeah, so I actually, first of all, developed a ton of skills while procrastinating. And that's one of the most unexpected things anyone has ever heard on procrastination, which is called productive procrastination, where sometimes you will procrastinate no matter how much you control your procrastination. So what you do when you procrastinate really matters. Going into YouTube and watching cat videos is way worse than actually learning how to code while you procrastinate on studying, math. Right? And that's what I did. Most of the skills I built them while procrastinating on something else. So when I was addicted to procrastination, I didn't know about it then, but I developed a lot of skills that later on clicked together. And that way I managed to build. I now am the co-host and co-founder of the most successful Greek podcast on self-improvement called the Brain Hacking Academy.
Awesome.
I founded
Congratulations.
a few different. Thank you. I founded a few different businesses. The most notable of which is my main brand, the Meta Learners, under which I now do most of my work on procrastination. And I'm also a core member of your team in Superhuman Academy, which is where I've learned so many things. I'm very grateful for that. I want to say that on the air. And it's thanks to you that I've also been able to go to the next step. We've been together for 2.5 years now, approximately. And it's been amazing.
Definitely, I did not know that you were a chronic procrastinator until I read through your work and the course that you created. And I was like, should I be worried? And then I was like, well, I never noticed any procrastination before. So that's definitely a testament that what you have done certainly works. And you've definitely done the research, you've done the trial and error, you've done the practice, and you have a lot to say and a lot to teach on the topic. You and I worked together. Mostly you worked. I helped, to add the Superhuman Academy touch. But you and I worked together on a course. Tell the audience a little bit about that course. I know they can't actually buy it right now, but that's about to change pretty soon for a very limited time.
Yeah. So, as I said, I figured out at some point that most things people teach about procrastination are wrong. And they are wrong because they start from the wrong angle. And it was very, very frustrating to me before anyone else as I tried to solve my procrastination with that advice. And I studied a lot of things over the course of many years, and nothing worked. And that was the most demotivating and demoralizing thing ever. So when I figured it out, I really wanted to help people. And I started really small. I helped the people around me. And I saw the impact that this mindset shift on procrastination made to people. So I decided to share that with the world, and I started creating a course. I have you in my life, thankfully. So I was able to put aside my perfectionism, knowing that you'll help me with that. So thank you for that. And we built a masterclass on procrastination effectively, right? And it goes through everything we just talked. It goes through what procrastination is, what's the science behind it. It goes really nitty-gritty into how to build awareness on our procrastination. And then we're talking about all the strategies on how to work around your procrastination in the long term and how to actually beat it in the short term so you can do the work today. And then, at the end, we really talk about how to maintain that momentum in your life going forward. So effectively, we built the course I wish I had all these years.
Yeah. Yeah, and it definitely delivers on that. Who do you think is the right audience for this course? I mean, again, we talked about at what level people should maybe intervene in their own procrastination, but who do you think is the right audience for this?
I may be a little biased,
maybe,
but when I talk about procrastination, I ask people, what percentage of the world do you think are procrastinators? And most people will answer something like 8% or something like that. But the truth is, from my research, and not only from my research, every single one of us is a procrastinator. What we sometimes don't realize is that we don't procrastinate on our work. So some people do get work done, but everyone procrastinates on something. It could be building a good relationship. It could be working on their body. It could be executing on an idea that's not their main work. It could be getting out of a toxic relationship. Everyone procrastinates on something that would make a huge difference in their life. So I think every single person can benefit from working on their procrastination. Just the journey of building that awareness of yourself and your thoughts and your feelings and your deeper motivators, that alone can change your life. Never mind solving procrastination.
I would agree. And although I've obviously already been through the course and helped produce it, I'm excited to go through it as a student and implement more of what is in the course, because there's a lot of worksheets, a lot of content that's very hands-on to help people and empower them without needing to spend 5 decades at a shrink to solve some of the underlying issues that are causing their procrastination. Now, people can't actually buy this course right now. It is not publicly for sale. We're only going to be making it available for a very short time next week when this episode comes out. So in May of 2020. Yeah. Where can people go? I think we haven't set this up yet, but maybe we've procrastinated setting this up. Just kidding. But where can people go to sign up and get notified when this becomes available? Do you know what our opt-in page is going to be for that?
So we don't know that right now because we've procrastinated on it a little bit. That's true. But seriously talking, let's go to superhumanacademy.com/procrastination.
Sounds
and
good
I
to
think
me.
We'll set that up to get you wherever you need to go to get notified for the course when it launches. And before we actually open the course and you can enroll in it, we'll probably do some extra content procrastination. So make sure you don't miss that too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we have that call after this call. It's important to also know we're doing this podcast weeks in advance. So we really haven't actually procrastinated, but we have a call next to talk about how we can deliver 3 free training sessions and free masterclasses and all kinds of free Q&As and free content. So people definitely don't want to miss out on that. But you do need to go ahead and notify us if you want to be made aware. So make sure to do that, folks. superhumanacademy.com/procrastination is going to be the answer. And Dimitris, where can people reach out and learn more about you, see your credentials? Maybe if they are a Greek speaker, they can check out your podcast.
So my website is themetaLearners.com. You can go there, you can find a lot of my articles, and you can contact me through there. And for Greek-speaking people, my podcast is called The Brain Hacking Academy, and you can check that out as well. But it's in Greek, so sorry to everyone who's not a Greek speaker.
Fair enough. Well, there's a learning project. Go ahead and learn some Greek.
Yeah.
Dimitris, before I let you go, and thank you, I do want to ask if people take away one big message from this podcast episode and they carry it with them for the rest of their lives, no pressure, what would you hope for that to be?
Thankfully, I had time to prepare for that question.
Right.
And I'll go back to the big quote, big mantra, maybe I should call it, that I live my life by. The okay thing that you do is much better than the perfect thing that you don't. This is a piece of advice that can be applied to almost everything, not just procrastination, and it will literally change your life as it changed mine.
Incredible. Dimitris, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm really excited about all the free trainings we're going to be doing. So,
me too, man.
I hope people
Thank you
will
very
check
much
that
for
out.
having me. This was amazing, and I'm looking forward to talking to you a little bit after this one.
Likewise.
Thanks for tuning in to the award-winning Superhuman Academy podcast. For more great skills and strategies, or for links to any of the resources mentioned in this episode, visit superhuman.blog. While you're at it, please take a moment to share this episode with a friend and leave us a review on iTunes. We'll see you next week.